All right, moving on to the next one, and this is the Miami Heat. Now, the Heat at the time were 25-29. I can't remember what they finished at. They finished above 500. I do know that. I think they they did make the playoffs, and the Bulls beat them 3-0. They swept them in the first round. So the Heat did eventually make the playoffs. Here's one of the one Heat. I bet you in that series when it started, ESPN was like, oh, we got drama. One of the 10 teams to beat them. Get out of here. 3-0. When it mattered, the Bulls were showing up. So in this, Jordan, 31 points. After that last game against the Suns, he's like, no, we're not having that. I'm making sure I drop 30 in this. 31 points. Kerr, rising to the occasion, 19 points. And Pippen, 13 points. Dang it, Pippen. Dang it, why do you do this? And what do you think? Do you think he shot 5 for 8? Nope. He shot Pippen in that, where is that? 4 for 18. I think that's the worst. 22% field goal percent. 22. 4 for 18. Man, once you get to like 4 for 10, I know you want to shoot out of it, but you got MJ. You got Cruz having a good night. You got Ron Harper. You got other guys on that team you can kick it to. You know, Kukoc. Not a good night. I put the loss on this one on Pippen. Now, it is on Pippen, I would say that. But watch this. What did the Heat do? We know Alonzo Mourning, 19 points, solid game. Leonard, 19 points. So you're putting in the big guys, they're coming up dropping 19. Who had, it's got to be season high, but 9 for 10 on three-point shooting. Remember, we're used to that nowadays, but 9 for 10, you did not see that every night. 9 for 10 on three. Go through your mind real quick. Think, 95, 96, Miami. Now, I did not know he was on this team at this time, but I did remember him being on this team. Rex Chapman. Remember Rex Chapman? He was the guy, man, on video games, you're dropping threes, you would take Rex. He's one of the guys you would look for. He had 39 points and was 9 for 10 on three-pointers. So it took a monster night from a guy who's, I don't know what his career scoring is. He can't be over anywhere from 15 to 20. Rex Chapman was not like a 28 point per game guy, but he could have these kind of games. And when you get hot and the Bulls are in town, that's when you get hot. So I'd be interested to see check it out if you want, go look it up. What did he do the following game after that? Did he, go for 2 for 10 on threes? But that's what it took. Mourning, Leonard had good games, but three-pointers, 9 for 10, Chapman, 39. This is Chapman helping Miami and Pippen hurting Chicago. And that is one of their other losses. Now we're getting down to their last 4 losses. 3 of them make sense, I think. Here we go. Let's get to it. And the next one is one of their biggest rivals, one of Jordan's biggest hatred rivals. And by the way, all of these are road losses. I forgot to say that. They weren't at home. The Bulls are winning at home. They're taking care of their home court. It was road losses. The Knicks in New York, they beat them 104-72, the worst loss of the season. So here's a little note. If you go back, if you're a big Knicks fan, pat yourself on the back and save it. If you're any other fan who just wants to know history, bring it up. Say, hey, who beat the 72-10 Bulls team worse than anyone else? Who gave them the biggest beatdown that year? You go, right here, the New York Knicks. New York took care of it. In New York, you knew they were coming for them on the game. At this point, they are 54-7. So at that point, 54-7, I'm not thinking they're going single-digit losses. I mean, they did go 10, but I'm thinking they're probably going to go 17-12, like it said. The pace. They had an 18 and a 13, which is behind them, I believe, at this point, win streaks. So you're thinking no. The Knicks, 35-26. Almost 500. 10 games over 500. But Jordan, 32 points, never fails to show up in Madison Square Garden, but 32 points. Pippen, really? Pippen, do you think he showed up? Another loss? This is what, I'm taking back. Pippen did so much to help this team, especially in the playoffs. So yes, they did need him to win. But you know what? I unfairly gave him so much extra credit on some of these seasons. And he still did. They still won 72 games. You can't get on the guy. He does have bad nights. It just, he seemed to have them at the same times they lost. So maybe he was the straw that stirs the drink. So let's get to it. What did Pippen do? 11 points, 5 for 16, 31% shooting. Now, that's probably the best of all the crap performances we've seen Pippen have. And yes, are we nitpicking? Yes. Because to me, I would love to have seen the Bulls go 80-2. I mean, that would have been mind-boggling. What if Pippen didn't have any of these bad games? Have bad games when Kukoc or someone else steps up, Kerr, and then you can afford it. But on this night, you can't have Jordan get 32 and your next guy drop 11 and think you're going to beat the Knicks in New York when they still got Ewing. So let's get to them. Patrick Ewing, 26 points. He rose to the occasion. Hey, they said, hey, we're a playoff team. We can contend. We can take these guys. Another fun fact, at least the Knicks did beat the Bulls in the playoffs. One of only 2 teams, 4 rounds. The other were sweeps. The Heat and Magic were swept. The Knicks did get a victory out of them. So they got a win in the season and a win in the playoffs. And he had a double-double. Patrick Ewing had a double-double. Harper, 23 points. Big game for him. And 6 other guys, including... Any remember a guy from Florida State? I forgot all about this. How could I forget this when I went back to this? Charlie Ward, the old former Florida State quarterback who could have been pro NFL, and he chose to go basketball, and he had a pretty decent career. He dropped 10 points. He helped beat the 72-10 win Bulls in this game. 6 guys in double digits. And that happened frequently in this, where you would see 6 guys double digits, and the Bulls might have 3 or 2. Because Jordan couldn't carry it all on his own. 72 wins. I'm not nitpicking. This is just as we go through their losses. You know, the 72-10 is flipping insane, and I'll take it. And I would love to see it all over again with the new team who could finish Warriors. But, because that was fun to watch. But in that, 6, Charlie Ward, man, that brings back flashbacks. I would love to have seen that guy could have did dual sports, both. The problem is football and basketball at the same time. Baseball, you get a better chance at that. Now let's get to the next team, the Raptors. This is where you're like, dude, you cannot lose to the Raptors. This is a game where Jordan was probably like, hey, you know what, guys, let's stay focused. You know, let's get single digit losses. We can do it. And they come out and they play. And I remember this one. I just remember the Raptors, and I remember thinking, how did they lose to this team? Like, I didn't remember any stats from it, but when I always think back of this is one of the 10 losses towards the end where I was just like, how did they lose? Who did anyone win money on this? Like, what was the odds? And then how much did you get paid out? So the Raptors won 109-108 by 1 point. And in the end of the stat sheet, whether it's 72, like they did where the Knicks destroyed them, or if it's the Raptors by 1, a loss is a loss. So at this point, the Bulls are 60-8. You're like, dang, they could have really pushed this. The Raptors, take a guess what the Raptors are. 60-8. 60. The Raptors aren't closer to the 60. Their wins are closer to the 8. 18. They had 18 wins. So they were 18-49. That's got to be one of the worst teams in the history of sports win percentage to beat a team this high in the win percentage. Absolutely crazy. In this game, how does this happen? Jordan dropped 36. He had a big game, especially after probably losing on the road at the Knicks. And now was this one at home? No, this is not one of their home losses. Anyways, this is still on the road. Jordan, where is it? Oh, I'm sorry. Jordan, 36 points. Kukoc had 23 points. And Kerr had 17. So you're looking at it, you're like, okay, you got Kerr's dropping 17. You got Kukoc who's got 23. Jordan going 36. If you just told me those after the game or even now, I would say the Bulls won, right? There's no way they lost this. How could you have lost this? Pippen had 10 points. Pippen dropped 10 points and shot 4 for 13. 30%. Now, still better than that Knick game where he was 31%, but 30%. As you have seen, Pippen has been the one who has kind of faltered and lost these games, which, like I said, it's a team game. It still is, but it's just not a coincidence that on their losses, Pippen shot really bad. And I think if he had just kind of kicked it out more, Kukoc, Kerr, whatever, maybe dropped 10 assists. I don't see too many games in here where he had double-digit assists. He could have had those and not tried to shoot his way out of it. And who knows? But now here goes some names. Damon Stoudemire. Remember Damon Stoudemire? He was like the next big thing, and he dropped 30 points for the Raptors. Tracy Murray, 23 points. Man, these names take me back. I love hearing this. And with the old style, Carlos Rogers. He used to be on the Warriors, and he was on the Raptors. Rogers was a fun guy. Remember Pig Miller? Oliver Miller. He had 14 points. And one of my favorite antagonists and Kobe Bryant villain, rival, not really a rival, but, kind of a thorn in his side, Doug Christie. Remember Doug Christie eventually goes to the Kings and has a great career with Sacramento and helped that team. So you got Oliver Miller 14, Doug Christie 13, Carlos Rogers 15, Tracy Murray 23, and Stoudemire leading the way with 30. They had one other guy in double digits, 6 guys in double digits. We talked about that's a trend. You get the team play. Everybody's rising. The Bulls are in town. Step up. We are 18. We had 17 wins. We probably ain't going to get 20. But if we're going to get 18, let's make it against the Chicago Bulls. And everybody showed up. You can see how this is a problem, right? Pippen struggles. Even if he doesn't struggle, let's say Pippen's on a net, let's say they're not going for the hype, the record. That I don't think that this happens. It's every team stood up, and you can see that was their 18th win. And on it, everybody, 6 guys had double digits. Great. They play great team basketball. And you sit there and go, why can't you do this every night? Because there is, regardless of what you say when athletes go, hey man, that championship, hey, so-and-so's my motivation. Well, yeah, to start the season it is. But when you're 17 wins and 49 losses, you know you're not making playoffs. And what's your motivation now? To bump up your points per game so you can get a bigger contract? Probably. But when the Bulls come to town, it's playoff time. You're treating it like a playoff game, and that's what happened. So big win for the Raptors. Let's get to the last 2 losses. This video's gone way longer than I thought. I'm sorry. Now, this is the big one. Heck, I'm going to even put this as a YouTube short. This is one of the craziest things as you think about it now. I've never heard anyone else talk about it. Maybe they have. You know how it is. Everyone says something, and then you think you came up with it. But they lost to the Charlotte Hornets at home. The first team all season to beat them at home. And it was 98-97 Charlotte Hornets by 1 point on the game. Now the Bulls are 66-9. They could have been 67-8, but 66-9. The Hornets go to 39-37. They finished the season 41-41. So not, they're right in the middle. They're not the Raptors that we just talked about. In that game, Jordan goes for 40 points. MJ dropping a 40, and he had a double-double. I believe he grabbed, over 10 rebounds. Kukoc, 19 points. Pippen, dang you, Pippen. They lose, no tipping Pippen. They lose by 1 point, and you think maybe he could have asked for an extra assist, and they would have won? He had 7 points. He was 3 for 11 shot. Now, at least this time he took his shots down. But 3 for 11, 27%. It is not an accident. When Pippen did not shoot well, they would lose their games. We've covered 9. This is the 9th of their 10 losses. And in like 8 of them, Pippen has had a bad shooting game. And when he does, they would lose. Some barely, other than the Knicks. But, 6 points or less. But that's not the crazy part. Let me get to the crazy part. Remember Glenn Rice? Glenn Rice dropped 11 points. Grandmama, Larry Johnson only had 8 points, but he's still a name to remember. Larry Johnson, Grandmama, Glenn Rice, who eventually went to the Lakers. Now, this is Kenny Anderson, 20 points. This is the part that blows my mind. He doesn't know that. He doesn't know that. But there's a reason why the Warriors got the all-time record. All-time record Warriors at 73-9. Had this man here not done this, the Bulls would have finished 73-9. The Hornets won by 1 point. There's a guy named Del Curry, Steph Curry's dad, who dropped 19. So you go, okay, he dropped 19. Ken Anderson had 20. Pippen had a bad game. Yes. But the reason Del Curry was such a good shooter, he went 9 for 9 for free throws. If he misses just one free throw, they go to overtime, maybe lose that game. He had to be perfect free throws. And by Del Curry having a 19-point game and going 9 for 9 on his free throws, he beat the Bulls and caused them to finish 72-10. Had he not did that, had he just missed one free throw, the Bulls would have finished 73-9, and his son's Golden State Warriors, Steph Curry, Golden State Warriors, could have only at best tied the Bulls' all-time record. But instead, they got it on their own. So the son, Steph Curry, got it with 73 wins, and his dad, Del, helped him before his son was even thought of. I think so. 96, 2006, 2020. Yeah, no, his son was born. But either way, I just think that was crazy. When I was looking at the stats, I'm like, hey, there's Del Curry. I thought he played in the earlier 90s. I just kept forgetting he was around at that time. And then I go, hey, he went 9 for 9, 19 points. He played a major part in one of the Bulls' losses. And like I said, and their first one at home. And he went 9 for 9 on free throws. Amazing. Just amazing fact. If you didn't know that, comment. Let me know if you think that's interesting. Or am I just saying who cares? I just think that's so ironic. I think that's so crazy how history and how one guy, both of them, both Currys were part of the all-time record, as well as Steve Kerr, as he's been part of it. But looks like both Currys were as well. And now let's get to the last one. The Indiana Pacers, we talked about way earlier in the season when the Pacers beat them early on. They beat them in Indiana at home, and now they beat them towards the end of the year on the road in Chicago. That one was 199, another 1-point loss. So man, see how close the Bulls came? That's how they had multiple 1-point losses. This Bulls team could have easily been 75-7, easily. That would, I mean, already we saw someone break it. I don't know if it'll ever happen again, but 73 or 75-7, I don't think would have ever been broken. And that's the way it went some nights. So let's look at why. This one I don't think is on Pippen. At this point, the Bulls are 71-10. They do go on to win their last game of the season. 51-30 for the Pacers. They were not a bad bet at all. Jordan, 24 points. Kukoc, 20 points. Now, Pippen had 11, but he didn't shoot bad. He actually learned, hey, you know, I think he was somewhere okay, and he's like, I'm not going to shoot us out of this one. And he let Jordan, who did have 24. Now, the problem is, in this one, Jordan was 9 for 23. So I put this loss on Jordan. Had he just made one more shot, they win. Had he just maybe found another open man and trusted his teammates, they win. But in this one, it is 39%. Now, that's not bad, right? That's better than any of Pippen's bad shooting nights. But I would say Jordan, if anything, it was the Pacers were a really good team. They played well. And then Jordan just didn't have his best shooting night like he did in other nights. Rick Smits, once again, 17, leading the Pacers. Dale Davis came out there and had 16 points. And then 6 guys were in double digits. So that's it. That is the 72-10 Bulls. That is their 10 losses. The worst one has to be the Raptors. The ironic one has to be the Hornets, who also was their first home loss. The Pacers is the only team to beat them twice in the regular season. Now, I said someone beats them 3 times throughout the entire year. Can you guess who that is? If you can guess or figure it out, write in the comments who you think it was. I know who it was throughout the entire postseason, regular season. The Knicks did beat them twice. But that is it. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you really comment. Let me know what you think about Del Curry. Is that ironic? Let me know if you think it was on Pippen on a lot of these. That's what the stats show. And were the 72-10 Bulls team really that good? Or did they just have a good core? Was it really carried by Jordan and Rodman and Pippen doing their job? And then you had Harper and Kerr. You had guys like Harper and Kerr, even though Harper was towards the end of his career. Harper and Kerr and Kukoc, who on other teams would probably be higher up and leaders, who were kind of like second fiddle, right? So they're really good teams, but could they have handled the Celtics of the 80s or the Lakers of the 80s? Because at one point, I'm thinking they're the man. They're the best ever. But as I go through this, I'm like, 105 points a game, 92 points a game defensively. It seemed more like Jordan carried them. They had tough competition. This is not a weak NBA. This is a good NBA, 29 teams, and you had some good studs in there. But as I go through it, I'm going to have to revisit our greatest teams ever in the last 40 years at least. And we have to make part 2 on that. So thanks for watching. Give a like, give a subscribe, and look for more Red 13 videos on sports and fantasy. Talk to you guys later. Peace.